We're throwing it back to old school nonna style. We're making carne alla pizzaiola, one of my favorites, thin pieces of beef simmered in a delicious tomato oregano sauce. It's easy, it's simple, it is a favorite and such a staple in this household and growing up, so I'm excited to share it with you. Hi guys, I'm Laura Vitale. Today we're making carne alla pizzaiola. Carne alla pizzaiola is a very classic, traditional recipe that I grew up with in Campania, in Napoli. There are definitely many variations depending on where you are sort of throughout Italy. It is a recipe, so the way my nonna describes it is it's a recipe, it's an old classic recipe that came from taking cheap cuts of meat and then just basically simmering it in leftover pizza sauce, which I love the concept of that. It is very simple. The recipes you'll find online from like American Italian households, it's not the classic pizzaiola napoletana. This is how my nonna makes it, and I'm so excited to share it with you. It does not have any peppers or pepperoni or onions or anything like that. It does not mean whatever goes on your pizza goes into the sauce, if you will. It's its own thing and it's delicious, and I'm show you the very, very few ingredients you're gonna need to make this. Okay. I've always done it this way because this is how I grew up eating it. These are really thin pieces of beef. You can use sirloin or like an Angus, like any beef that you would use for braciole, you can use for here. You just need very, very thin pieces. Like I said, you can make this different ways, but this is how I grew up eating it. You'll also need fresh basil, not a lot. Fresh cherry tomatoes, perfect now that they're still in season and nice and sweet. You'll need some tomato puree, crushed tomato. This is our home jarred tomatoes, and you're gonna need some oregano. Some really, really good quality dried Italian oregano is best here. And you need some olive oil and some salt. It's really simple, but it's the best. So, first thing we're gonna do is get a pan really, really, really hot. We are going to season our beef with some salt, and we are going to sear this for quite literally 10 seconds per side. The reason that is because the beef's very, very thin. If we overcook it, it's gonna be really tough. I don't wanna overcook it. I literally wanted to just grab color, grab some color. I'm gonna get my little spoon. And then all I'm gonna do is, let me grab my little spoon. It's gonna just grab some color and I'm gonna take it out. That's all I'm gonna do because I'll finish simmering it in the sauce for a few seconds once it's ready. Do this in batches so that you don't overcrowd your pan and get this to steam, because we don't want that. You would think that I would have my tongs out, but I don't. Here they are. That's long enough for me. Flip it over. Beautiful. Literally 10 seconds per side is all you need because you don't want this to overcook. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this to all of my beef, get it out to a plate, I'm gonna wash my hands, and then move forward. Got my tomato sliced up. Got my beef seared. I'm adding some olive oil to the skillet. Cranking that back on because I turn it down. I'm adding a couple cloves of crushed garlic. I'm not going to even chop it. This is definitely nonna style. Actually, if it was very nonna style, she would take the garlic, she would leave it whole and then just take it out once it had infused. I'm not going to do that because we don't mind it. And all I'm going to do at this point is let my garlic just kind of sizzle and come to temperature. Now, for your beef, if you're getting beef that's made for braciole, you can make the exact same recipe. The only difference is you would want to let it simmer for at least an hour so that that beef can get really tender. I'm not making it that way simply because I'm using really thin pounded sirloin and it's going to cook literally in a second and still be tender. So I'm not really concerned about it. You can make this both ways. You just have to make sure you don't overcook the beef in the very beginning if you plan on making this in like 15 minutes, which is how I'm used to making it. That's how I grew up making it. It's a really fast and easy recipe, and it's so good with sweet, sweet summer tomatoes. It's like makes the biggest difference. So just sauteing that garlic for a few more seconds. Get them right in there. Now, ordinarily, I would add some basil right now, but I'm not going to. I'm going to add the basil at the end just to give it a little bit of that beautiful scent of basil, but I don't want to infuse the sauce with a lot of basil because I want the herb infusion to come from the oregano, which is really important. It's like a very big staple ingredient in this recipe. When you make pizza sauce, especially in Italy, they always add a pinch of oregano to the sauce, and that's kind of what makes it so special, and that's what reminds you here of the classic Napolitan pizza flavor. These are looking good. I'm gonna add a little bit of my crushed tomatoes. Now, obviously, how much you add depends on how much meat you plan on cooking, and it also matters what you plan to serve this with. Now, when I was a kid, I had this one of two ways: stuffed inside really crusty bread, like a sandwich, or served with pennette, with like teeny tiny penne on the side. I don't know which is my favorite. I'm gonna go with bread, which is how I'm serving it today, but you really can't go wrong. It's just so good. So now to that, you're gonna add your oregano. I order mine online because it's my favorite Calabrian oregano by Tutto Calabria, and I really love it. So as you can see, when I add my dry herbs, especially oregano, watch what I do with my fingers. You see how I kind of pinch it and crush it? That releases all the oils, and that's what you want. It releases all that flavor. Hit it with a pinch of salt. And I'm just gonna go ahead and let this simmer about 10 minutes, not long. It's a really quick cooking recipe, perfect for a late night dinner, perfect for you don't have a lot of time on your hands. It's just delicious in general. So you can make this with chicken if you wanted to. You can also make this with mushrooms and potatoes, like add cooked potatoes to this and it will be a wonderful vegetarian option. Totally up to you. I'm just gonna go ahead and cover this up and let it simmer for a bit, and then we finish it with the beef and some basil, and that's it. That is beautiful, and you can smell all of the good stuff. You can smell the garlic. Get those juices in there too, by the way. You can smell the garlic. You can smell everything. The oregano. And all I gotta do now is crank this back up because I turned it down just to heat the beef through and for everything to kind of bubble together, and then we'll add our basil, and that's pretty much it. It's really not a difficult model. I'm just gonna cut this one in half just so that it's easier, and it cuts like butter, you see, because we cooked it for a second. Here, I'm gonna do this one so you can see, because we cooked it for such a short amount of time. Watch. See? Beautiful. Cutting them in half sometimes makes it easier to fit in the pan. I should have done that before putting them in the pan, but you know, I love a challenge. I love a challenge, and the challenge right now is to cut this on top of each other so that the knife doesn't get to my pan, to my surface, which I did. I feel very proud about that. So bringing this back up to a bubble, covering the beef with your sauce. Just let it simmer a little bit. Remember, don't let it simmer too long or your beef is gonna get really, really tough unless you plan on simmering this for at least an hour. Just a little gentle bubble for a couple minutes is all you need. And that's done. That's it. It's easy, it's simple, such a staple. You gotta make it this way though, no? Promise me you're not gonna add pepperoni and peppers and onions and all that. I mean, you can, but then you wouldn't be experiencing carne alla pizzaiola napoletana. And that is just the beauty of this dish. It is that there's so much culture in just that tiny little dish. I don't know. It's special to me. I hope it's special to you too. The moment of truth. See? Cuts like butter. Because we do not want to overcook this thin piece of beef unless you plan on simmering it for a while. For some reason, I can't get it on the fork. That is like my childhood all over again. I need really crusty bread, which is how I'm serving this for lunch today. And I'm happy. I'm a happy, happy camper. Go to laurainthekitchen.com, get the written recipe, not that you really need it. I hope you've enjoyed spending time with me. I want you to make this, and if you've grown up with it, I want you to leave down below your memories associated with this dish, because to me, it is hot summer nights at my nonna's or my mom's with the windows blasted open and 14 fans to keep the heat off of your face because it gets so hot in the summer. Anyway, good memories. Hope you've enjoyed spending time with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.